She caught us beneath the moonlight, her husband and me, a slave chained by fate. The lantern in her hand shook, spilling fire across the walls. Her scream wasn't pain. It was vengeance. The whip cracked once, then silence. By dawn, she'd done the unthinkable. Sold her husband and me to the same brothel in Montgomery. And that's where the nightmare truly began. My name is Samuel. Born in the damp quarters behind the cotton fields of Montgomery County, Alabama, 1851. I never knew the world beyond the plantation fences, those endless wooden bars carved into my memory like scars on my back. The air was always heavy with sweat, tobacco, and the stench of blood. They said freedom lived somewhere north, past the rivers, past the fear. But on this land, freedom was just a rumor whispered between chains. The Rothwell plantation was owned by a man named Thomas Rothwell, a man whose voice carried the weight of God when he spoke. At least, that's how the others described him. To us, he was both master and warden. Every lash, every order, every breath we took came by his will. His wife, Margaret Rothwell, was known for her beauty and cruelty alike. Her dresses sparkled in church on Sundays, but her heart was cold steel beneath lace and perfume. I was just 16 when she first noticed me. Back then, I was strong from work, tall, broad-shouldered, and fast with the horses. I thought her gaze meant danger. But she smiled that day, slow and strange, like a storm pretending to be sunlight. "You've grown, Samuel," she said. Her voice was sweet as the magnolia air, but something in it made my hands tremble. The master often left for business trips, auctions, debts, and gatherings with other plantation owners. He'd ride away for days, sometimes weeks, leaving the plantation under Margaret's rule. That's when things began to shift. She'd call me into the big house under pretense to move crates, polish silver, fix the broken latch on her window. But her eyes said something her words didn't. Then came Thomas's illness. A fever, they said, brought on by too much whiskey and too little rest. For weeks, he was bedridden. Margaret's visits to his room grew shorter, her patience thinner. I'd hear their voices, her bitterness, his slurred anger. She accused him of spending more nights in the slave quarters than in her bed. At first, I didn't believe it. Then one night, I saw it for myself, the master, sneaking through the dark toward the cabins, carrying a lantern and a bottle. Toward Daniel, the quiet young man who worked beside me in the fields. Something twisted in my chest that night. Not jealousy, but dread. The air of that plantation had always been poisoned with secrets. But now I was standing in the middle of something deadly. I should have looked away, kept my eyes shut, but I didn't. And that single moment, the sight of the master slipping into Daniel's cabin, became the beginning of our ruin. Because Margaret saw it too, and what she did next would burn everything we knew to ash. Tone, slow building tension, suspicion, cruelty, and dread. This section shows the mistress discovering the truth and how cruelty starts festering inside the plantation walls. The next morning, the air felt heavier than usual, the kind that makes your lungs ache before the sun even rises. Margaret didn't come to the fields that day, but we all felt her presence, like a storm cloud waiting to break. By noon, whispers spread through the quarters. Daniel had been called to the big house. He walked past me, his hands trembling, his eyes fixed to the ground. "It'll be fine," I told him. He didn't answer, just kept walking like a man headed to his own hanging. Hours passed. Then the scream came. It wasn't pain. It was rage, high and sharp, slicing through the stillness of the plantation. A moment later, glass shattered. The house door slammed. And then silence. That night, no one saw Daniel again. When I brought in the horses, Margaret stood at the porch. Her white dress was stained red with wine, or maybe something else. Her eyes found mine through the dark. "You and I will be having a word, Samuel," she said. The next evening, she sent for me. Her room smelled of roses and whiskey. The firelight painted her face in gold and shadow. "Do you know what he did?" she asked, voice trembling but steady. I kept my head low. "He betrayed me, my own husband, with one of you." Her fingers dug into my chin and lifted my face. "Tell me, Samuel, did you know?" My throat burned. I wanted to speak, but words wouldn't come. She laughed, soft, cruel. "Loyal. That's good. I like loyal men." For the next week, she kept me close, had me working inside the house instead of the fields. At night, she'd talk, drink, pace. Sometimes, she'd break into laughter, then tears, then silence again. Each day, the fever in her eyes grew. She had lost control, but she wouldn't let the world see it. Then, one afternoon, she asked me to ride with her to town. We stopped outside a wooden building near Montgomery, one I'd never seen before. The sound of laughter and music leaked through the windows. Women's voices, men's voices. She turned to me, her expression calm now, too calm. "This," she said, "is where my husband will learn loyalty." I didn't understand, not until I saw him step out from the carriage behind us. The master himself, pale and dazed, led by two men I didn't know. He looked at me with horror. "Margaret, what is this?" She smiled. "A lesson." And before I could speak, the men grabbed us both. Ropes, orders, coins exchanged. Her voice, cold as iron. "Sell them together. To the same house. Let them see what loyalty feels like when it's paid by the hour." I screamed her name, but the sound was drowned by the horse's hooves as the carriage pulled away. That night, under the dim lamps of Montgomery, Daniel's fate found us again. But this time, it had a price tag. They locked us in a small, windowless room behind the brothel. The air was thick with perfume, sweat, and something darker, shame. Every sound from the hallway outside was a knife in my chest. Laughter, music, the creak of beds, the soft sobs of the women who had forgotten what freedom even meant. Thomas Rothwell, the man who once called himself my master, sat in the corner, silent, broken. His fine clothes were gone. His hands, once proud and commanding, shook like a drunkard's. For the first time, I saw him without power, just a man stripped bare, consumed by his own sins. Days passed. We were used, paraded, mocked. The madam ran the place like a business of ghosts. She called me Samuel the Stallion, forced to please whoever could afford me. Sometimes I caught a glimpse of Thomas in the hallway, face hollow, eyes begging for death. I should have pitied him. But pity dies in a place like that. What replaces it is darker, something born from the ashes of humiliation. One night, a new face came through the door, a woman in a red shawl, quiet, watchful. Her accent was northern, her gaze sharp. She slipped me a folded note beneath the glass she handed me. Inside, scrawled words, "Underground route. Wednesday, midnight. Find the cellar door." My heart pounded so hard I thought the madam might hear it. Freedom? After everything? Could it be real? But as I looked toward Thomas's trembling form in the corner, a darker thought took hold. Freedom meant leaving him alive, leaving her unpunished. The woman who sold her husband and her slave to the same brothel deserved worse than death. She deserved to watch it all crumble. That night, I whispered my plan to Thomas. "We can escape," I told him. "Together." His eyes widened, hope flickering for the first time. He nodded. Foolish man. Wednesday came. The cellar door creaked open to the night air, and we slipped into the shadows behind the brothel. The woman in red waited with two others, lanterns dimmed. "Hurry," she said. "We have horses waiting north." But I had another direction in mind, south, back toward the plantation. She warned me, begged me, but I couldn't leave. Not yet. Not until the fire in my chest found peace. So I turned away, vanishing into the woods. Behind me, I heard the woman's whisper fade into the night. "Then God help you, Samuel." The road to Rothwell Plantation was long, but vengeance made it short. I walked barefoot through mud and rain, every step echoing with the screams I'd heard in the brothel. When I reached the gates, dawn was breaking, that same cruel sunrise over the cotton fields. And in the big house, through the window, I saw her, Margaret Rothwell, sitting at her vanity, brushing her hair as if nothing in the world had changed. But everything was about to. The plantation looked smaller when I returned, like a dying beast too weak to roar. The cotton fields were empty, the air heavy with silence. Only the cicadas sang in the trees, mocking the dead calm that hung over the land. I crept toward the big house, my heart steady now. Rage had burned through fear long ago. The front doors were still carved with her initials, MR, gilded and proud. Inside, everything was as I remembered. The silver gleaming, the perfume of lilacs, the ticking of that great-grandfather clock that once ruled our every hour. I found her in her room, back to me, brushing her hair in the mirror. Candlelight danced across her skin. She didn't see me at first, or maybe she did and chose not to turn. "Samuel," she said quietly, her tone calm, like she'd been waiting. "I knew you'd come." Her reflection smiled. "You're stronger now. I can see it in your eyes. The city did that to you." I stepped closer. "You sold me." She set down the brush. "I saved myself. You were just collateral." Her words cut deep, but her calmness enraged me more than any whip ever had. I could smell the whiskey on her breath, the faint smoke from the fireplace. Every sense screamed revenge. "You took everything from me," I said, voice low. She turned finally, eyes gleaming in the flicker of the flame. "And yet you came back to me," she whispered. "Tell me, Samuel, was it love or hate that brought you here?" Something inside me snapped. In one motion, I grabbed the poker from the fire. The iron burned in my hand, glowing red. She didn't scream. Not yet. She just stared, frozen, as I took a step forward. "You'll never touch me again," I said. "And he'll never forgive you." Her lips parted, maybe to beg, maybe to curse. But I swung. The poker connected with a sickening crack. She fell to the floor, the red of the iron now blending with the red pooling beneath her. The smell of burning filled the room as the fire caught the curtains. The flame spread like vengeance itself, wild, alive, unstoppable. I dropped the poker and stumbled back, watching the silk turn to ash. Through the smoke, I heard her voice, faint, trembling. "He'll find you," she said. "He'll burn you for this." I leaned close, whispering, "Then let him try." By the time I stepped outside, the whole house was alight. The sky turned orange, the windows screamed with breaking glass. The plantation that once held me in chains was now burning like Judgment Day. I walked away barefoot through the fields, the fire roaring behind me, the smell of smoke and vengeance heavy in my lungs. They'd call it an accident in the morning. They'd bury her beside the man she betrayed. And they'd never know that the ghost who burned Rothwell Plantation walked away into the dawn, free, but forever cursed. The fire didn't end that night. It kept whispering long after the flames were gone, in the wind, in the ash, in my bones. By dawn, the plantation was nothing but a skeleton, beams reaching to the sky like blackened ribs, the earth still breathing smoke. The air was thick and hot, every breath a taste of ruin. The smell of burned wood mixed with something worse, flesh, perfume, and whiskey. The fields that once shimmered white with cotton were now painted gray with ash. I walked barefoot through what used to be my prison. The ground hissed under each step. Horses lay silent in their stalls, their eyes open, reflecting the dying embers. The portraits in the hall were half melted, faces running down their frames like candle wax. Margaret's picture, the one that once hung over the staircase, was gone. Only the golden frame remained, warped and empty. Then I saw it. A trail of scorched silk leading from the stairs to the garden, torn, blackened. And at the end of it, her brooch, shaped like a rose. The metal burned my fingers when I picked it up. I stared at it, wondering if the devil himself had claimed her or if she'd tried to crawl away. The wind howled through the ruins, and I swear I heard her voice in it, faint, almost tender. "Samuel." I froze. The sound came again, soft, cracked, trembling. "Samuel, help me." I followed it through the haze, past the broken veranda, into the orchard where the peach trees still smoldered. There, in the dirt, was something half buried, a hand, charred, but reaching out, as if begging for mercy too late to receive it. I fell to my knees. My body wanted to weep, but my soul was empty. "May you burn," I whispered. May your soul burn as this house has. And then, for the first time, I realized I wasn't free. Not yet. Because freedom wasn't just running away. Freedom was forgetting. Behind me, the sound of hooves broke the silence. Riders from Montgomery. I hid in the ruins as they dismounted, their shouts slicing through the smoke. Lord have mercy, she's gone. One cried. Where's the master? Another asked. They searched the wreckage for hours, cursing, praying, arguing about sin and scandal. When they found the body in the orchard, they covered it quickly. She tried to escape the fire, one said. Didn't make it. If only they knew how much farther she'd fallen before the flames touched her skin. By the time they left, the sun was setting. I walked back to the river, carrying nothing but her brooch and the smell of smoke. The reflection of the fire still danced on the water, painting my face red like a sinner caught between heaven and hell. That night, as I lay beside the riverbank, the stars above looked like eyes watching, silent, unblinking, and in their cold light, I finally understood. The fire had burned the plantation, but it hadn't touched the guilt that still lived inside me. Years have passed, but the smell of smoke never left me. It clings to my hands, my breath, the threads of every shirt I've worn since. They say time cleanses sin, but I've learned it only teaches you how to carry it quietly. I live now in a small shack by the river, far from Montgomery. The world has changed. New names, new borders, new lives. But when the night grows still, and the wind hums low through the reeds, I hear the fire again, crackling like a memory refusing to die. Sometimes I wake before dawn and see her, Margaret, standing at the edge of the trees, the same red shawl she wore the night she condemned us both. Her face isn't angry anymore, just pale, patient, watching, waiting. She never speaks. She doesn't have to. Her silence burns louder than her screams ever did. I've asked myself 1,000 times, was it justice? Did the fire set me free, or did it forge another chain, one I'll wear until the end? I remember her words before the flames took her. You came back for me. Maybe she was right. Maybe revenge isn't about ending pain. Maybe it's about finding someone to share it with. I work the fields now, but not like before. The earth feels different when no whip follows you. The soil is softer, forgiving. Still, every time I press my palms into it, I see blood in the cracks, and I wonder how much of me was buried back in Alabama. One night, I met a preacher traveling north. He asked my name, and I told him I didn't have one. He smiled and said, Then take mine, Isaiah. It means salvation. Salvation. The word felt heavy in my mouth, too pure for a man who'd watched fire eat a woman alive. But I took it anyway. Not because I believed I deserved it, but because maybe one day I could. Sometimes children from the nearby farms come by to hear stories. They laugh when I tell them about the stars and how they're just holes in the sky where light escapes. But one little girl asked me once, Mister, what's the scariest thing you ever seen? I looked at her, her eyes wide, innocent, and said quietly, The scariest thing I ever saw was the face of someone I thought I hated looking exactly like mine. She didn't understand. Maybe that's for the best. Because the truth is, we all burn, in one way or another. Some of us by fire, some by memory. And when night falls, and I sit by the river, I can still see the reflection of that burning house in the water, flickering, endless. They say ghosts haunt the places they died. But mine? Mine follows the wind. And every time it carries the scent of smoke across the fields. I remember the night I set my soul on fire and called it freedom. The flames that swallowed that house still burn behind my eyes. I can smell the ash, the perfume, the fear. Sometimes, when the wind moves through the fields, I hear her voice again. Not screaming, but whispering my name, soft as forgiveness, cruel as memory. They say Montgomery rebuilt itself, new roads, new masters, new sins. But in every shadowed corner of that city, there's still a flicker of what we left behind. The brothel was torn down years later, yet the earth beneath it never grew anything again. I walk past those ruins sometimes, pretending I'm free. But freedom, I've learned, is a ghost that never stops following you. And every night, when the moon rises over Alabama, I swear, I see her standing in the firelight, the mistress, the chains, and the man I used to be.